Incidents of hair discrimination are occurring across the African diaspora in Black majority countries. In July 2023, a high school in Trinidad banned more than 20 boys from attending their graduation ceremony because their hair did not meet the school's definition of neat and tidy. And in Jamaica, a 5-year-old girl was barred from her school because she had locks. The school prohibited locks on non-Rastafarian students, claiming the hair could lead to lice or junjo or mold. And Jamaica's Supreme Court agreed. In 2020, the court ruled it was legal for the school to enforce a no braids, no beads, no locking of the hair policy. One of the justifications was for hygienic purposes, which is complicated, but you'll find out why soon. Over 12,000 kilometers away, a similar situation occurred in Kenya. A Rastafarian student was kicked out of school because she had locks, and it was only after a court order that she was allowed to return to class. The catch? She had to cover her locks with a turban. And in 2016, South African students protested what they called racist hair policies at Pretoria High School for Girls, a formerly all-white school. The school's code of conduct said hairstyles should be conservative, neat, and in keeping with the school uniform.
It's teaching self-hate. It's telling them who you are naturally is not good enough for our workplace, our sense of what elegance is, what proper dress is, so that in order to fit in, you have to change who you are fundamentally. Why is our natural body seen as something negative? And we have to address that. It's about the politics of the body. It's about making Black people feel inferior.
Europeans used the physical features of Africans, like their skin color and their hair, as justifications for enslaving them.
There was this real concerted effort by Europeans to distinguish African people as, closer to animals than humans. If you see posters, written things about Black people in, 14th, 15th, 16th century, in the prime of the European transatlantic slave trade, you'll see that hair is often referred to as fur, wool. It's used, the words to describe it are words that you would use to describe animal fur, animal hair.
And slave traders would shave the heads of Africans headed to the Americas under the guise of sanitation. But the degradation of African hair didn't stop there. During the Middle Passage, the voyage to the Americas, English slave traders referred to Africans' hair as dreadful because it naturally formed into locks.
Yo, all hands, hoist the colors high.
Do you know lice outbreaks are 30 times more likely in white people than in Black people?
Really?
The lice just don't enjoy black hair. Okay? For whatever reasons, it is 30 times more likely. Okay? If you put lice in the hair, it'll want to go to the white people's hair. We ever see chimpanzees pruning each other?
Oh, yeah, they pick the
They're
lice
picking out the lice. And
right.
apparently lice is tasty because they eat it.
Guys, I really don't know what to expect, but here we go. Oh my gosh, right off the bat, I really hope that they clean this. First off, the question is, how did it get to this point? Like, why aren't they already doing something about this? Like, please, how did this happen, guys? I don't know. I'm trying to get used to it. How does this happen? How did it happen? Guys, I'm not even kidding. I mean, the thing is that's buildup. And like I told you guys, this is what could possibly happen. And this is how you would deal with it, I guess, if it got to this point. But the thing is, how did it get to this point? That, number one, couldn't have been comfortable. Number two, there's just but to be honest, there's ways to, number one, treat this, but you got to figure out how to prevent it. The number one way is to just make sure that your hair is clean, make sure your scalp is clean. Like I said, guys, buildup attracts bugs. So make sure that you don't have buildup in your hair, especially if you have dreadlocks. This is really just a sign of it being neglected. If you don't take care of your hair, and this is just I don't know what to say. I got my hand up and everything, but I do want to mention their YouTube channel. It's Dr. Huge Flake. I'm assuming this is what he just does on his channel. And guys, I really didn't want to do this video just to react to it and just, you know, really look at how crazy this really is. I really want to teach you guys on how to prevent it, because how does it happen? How does it get to this point? And it's just from neglect. It's not paying attention to what you're doing. And of course, I don't think anybody watching this video will ever get to this point, and who knows, maybe it possibly could. But the way to prevent it, like I said, is to make sure your hair is clean. Make sure that your scalp has a good pH balance, which that's easy to do with using an ACV rinse. And there's so many things that you can do, and don't overdo it. Sometimes less is more, especially when it comes to cleaning your hair and making sure that your scalp is very clean. And I mean, they already took care of most of, I would say, the bigger issues right here. But I mean, it's one of those things like, how does that happen? And I think what I've told you today is like, honestly, how that happens. Like, it's pretty crazy how this is possible. But it looks like they got all of the actual live creatures out. I mean, the big ones at least. I mean, there could be smaller ones in there. Like I said, when your hair gets built up, it attracts bugs. And then if the bugs are small, they can eventually grow. And then when they grow, they can procreate. So that's how this happens with them multiplying, becoming bigger, so on and so forth. And to be honest, I thought this video was fake when I first seen it. But I mean, this just goes to show that it's very possible that this could happen. And I just want to tell you guys how to prevent it, because nobody wants to have to go through this. And I mean, it's just good that they're actually getting this treated so that it's fixed. All right, so
the Russians themselves were described by the traveler Ahmed Ben Fadlan as the dirtiest creation of God, does not evade urine or excrement.
The most disgusting customs of the Middle Ages. Queen Isabella of Castile constantly boasted not only of being a warrior queen, but also of having taken only 2 baths in her entire life. One bath when she was born, and the other before her wedding. Weddings were held in June because May was the month when people bathed the most. This is where the idea of bouquets originated, so the bride wouldn't smell as bad. The fan was also used to prevent women from showing their decayed teeth and to avoid bad breath from reaching others. Hair was supposed to be as long as possible, and the oilier the better. Typically, tiaras and hats were also worn to hide lice and prevent them from falling into food. Back then, the more rotten and yellow your teeth were, the richer you were. This indicated that you had access to sugar, which was very expensive at that time. On top of all this, they believed that if a woman washed her intimate areas too much, it could cause infertility, so she had to live with that odor.
Europe was drowning in filth, disease, and ignorance until African Muslims saved them. Europe was in the Dark Ages. Literally, no sanitation, no education, no medicine. Then the Moors came. These black Muslim scholars from North Africa brought science, math, medicine, engineering, and even the concept of bathing. That's right, they had to teach Europeans how to wash themselves. The Moors ruled Spain for 700 years, building universities, libraries, and surgical centers, while Europeans were still living in filth. But after they were kicked out, Europe stole their knowledge and erased them from history. The Moors didn't just visit, they built modern Europe, and they don't want you to know it.
Because white folks so crazy, they lie down with the dog, lie down with the sheep, lie down with the cow, lie down with the chicken. This crazy white man is something.
I've been hairy since I was little. It never goes away. Sometimes they call me monkey, sometimes they call me spider monkey.
Under all this hair is an 11-year-old girl.
This is called congenital generalized hypertrichosis syndrome, and it's pretty rare. It used to be called werewolf syndrome, and to be honest, I think he looks pretty cool.
You ought to check the animal, check that monkey out, check that chimpanzee out. Shave that hair and see what you see up underneath that hair. That's white. I know you in love with them. That's because you don't have no sense.
Oh, look. You can have it.
Sorry, your peanuts have disappeared. I will download more. Meanwhile, have a banana and some milk.
Come on, try yourself.
Yay.
Stay tuned for more iPad magic and please subscribe to my channel.
I mean, brother, he got down on his all fours. Yeah, grew a little tail. Yeah, some of them right today are born with a little 6-inch tail coming right off the spine. They cut it off quick. White folks even say it's healthy to get out on your all fours and crawl around. They like that. 2,000 years, this cracker is up in the cave, crawling around, him and the dogs together. That man didn't know how to cook food, didn't know how to bury his dead. Go look at that movie, Quest for Fire. That ain't you in the cave. This man didn't have no language. He's up there in the cave, and here you go. I bet they make a dog out of you sooner or later. That man is something.
Have you seen this before? This is called a fawn tail nevus. It's usually a sign of spina bifida, which means the spinal cord never formed correctly at birth. It can sometimes lead to neurological problems.
Let's find out the science behind the babies that were born with real tails. Many people are under the impression that our prehistoric ancestors had some kind of a tail. However, as a species, we have progressed beyond the point where we require such an organ. The human embryo develops a tail in the 6th week of gestation, complete with numerous vertebrae. The tail, however, disappears within the next several weeks of growth, and the vertebrae unite to create the coccyx, or tailbone, in adulthood. On rare occasions, a human child can be born with a vestigial tail, resulting from the activation of dormant but still present DNA coding for faulty characteristics. The most famous example is snakes that have developed one or more legs, so people can also develop a short, fleshy tail. Not all protrusions from the tailbone that seem to be tails are considered real tails by doctors. Numerous growths or cysts can occur directly on the tip of the tailbone. Although there are no bones in the vestigial tail, it does have nerves, blood, tissues and muscles. Surprisingly, in some people, the vestigial tail is movable like other parts of the body. Here are 9 babies reported with real tails. Number 1. A pseudotail, which is not the same as a real vestigial tail, is also present in certain individuals. Number 2. Although a pseudotail resembles a vestigial tail, it is produced by an extended coccyx. Number 3. According to a study, The most common reason for a pseudotail in 10 examples gathered from the literature was an abnormal extension of the coccygeal vertebrae. Number 4. However, the tails can be generally removed without complications from human newborns after surgery. Number 5. It is not necessary to remove human tails for any particular health-related cause. Nonetheless, having them can be unpleasant, painful, or inconvenient in other ways. Number 6. Some people who are born with tails choose to maintain their tails for a significant portion of their lives, while other families make the decision to have their newborn child's tail removed at birth. Number 7. There have been examples of patients as old as 17 years of age displaying their human tails to doctors for the first time. Number 8. In certain regions of the world, human tails are regarded with widespread horror and criticism, and infants who are born with human tails are often shunned by society. Number 9. In certain other cultures, such as those found in certain regions of India, tails are seen as divine gifts or blessings, and therefore they are given a high level of respect. Subscribe to Know How TV to watch more news like this.
Last night, I tell you, to watch that thing on television as I did. Yeah. To see those monkeys from those African countries. Damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
Well, and then the tail wags the dog there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tail wags the dog. I, for example, just had a call from Reagan, California, and he's been out there and so forth, and as you can imagine, there's strong feeling that we just shouldn't. As he said, he saw these cannibals on television last night, and he said they weren't even wearing shoes, and he says here the United States is going to submit its fate to that, and so forth and so on, and but that's typical of a reaction which is probably quite strong.
I'm a f***ing monkey? Oh, so you're racist. That's why you don't like me, because I'm black.
Please get off of my property.
Why?
Because you are rude.
During slavery, when they had the big rebellion with Nat Turner, he was cannibalized after they killed him. They ate him. During a lot of lynchings, they would cook and barbecue people, and they would actually eat the people that they would lynch. So this was something that was a part of the white supremacist culture, consuming us literally.
Because they know you are what you eat. So if a white man eats you or eat me, he believes that he becomes us. And I know it's strange because I conquered them, but I'm going to devour what I've conquered.
Rape culture. Fancy girl is a term that was used by slave traders to describe young, attractive, light-skinned, female slaves who they sold to slave owners for the purpose of sexual exploitation in the pre-Civil War South. Many of these slave owners were older and married, but wanted the status of owning a young, light-skinned concubine. In New Orleans, slave traders auctioned female slaves who were children and teenagers as fancy girls. Slave owners paid a premium for teenage girls who were in their prime childbearing years, usually around 15 or 16, but as young as 13. Slave owners considered any children these girls may produce as a return on their investment. A slave owner would be under no obligation to support these slave children and could decide to keep the children or sell them. Prior to being sold to slave owners, these female slaves were generally sexually and physically abused by the slave trader. Using a modern term, the fancy trade was sex trafficking in the pre-Civil War South. However, female slaves had no legal protection. Southern slave laws dictated that slaves were the property of their owners, and owners could do as they pleased with their slaves. For instance, in 1705, the Virginia slave codes allowed slave owners to do as they pleased with their slaves, even if it resulted in the death of a slave, without any repercussions. As far as female slaves were concerned, the South was a rape culture where sexual violence against them was normalized and trivialized. Slaves could not escape abusive owners by running away. Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which required that slaves be returned to their owners, even if they were in a free state. The act made the federal government responsible for finding, returning, and trying escaped slaves. Fancy girls were generally the product of a sexual relationship, forced or otherwise, between a black, female slave and her white owner, the white friends and family of the owner, or the white overseer. In 1662, Virginia enacted the enactment of hereditary slavery law, which made any child who was born of a slave mother a slave for life. This law also applied to children who appeared to be white. On slave breeding farms in the Chesapeake Bay region, slave children were generally taken away from their slave mothers as soon as they were weaned and sold to cotton plantations in the Deep South. The domestic slave trade transported millions of slaves from states like Virginia and Maryland to the cotton plantations of the Deep South. The fancy trade was a lucrative segment of the domestic slave trade. Slave traders purchased light-skinned female slaves from slave owners in the Chesapeake Bay region at a low price, and then auctioned them to buyers in cities like New Orleans, Louisiana, and Natchez, Mississippi for an enormous profit. The word fancy in the term fancy girl refers to the fact that these female slaves were kept around only as long as they met their owner's fancy. At auction, fancy girls typically sold for 4 to 5 times the price of a female field laborer. Fancy girls often sold for as much or more than a prime male field laborer. Franklin and Armfield. Franklin and Armfield, The largest slave trading firm in the U.S. in the 1830s was located in Alexandria, Virginia, and was very active in the fancy trade. Isaac Franklin and John Armfield were the undisputed tycoons of the domestic slave trade, and the domestic slave trade made them extremely wealthy men. Their specialty was buying large numbers of slaves in the Chesapeake Bay region at a low price, transporting those slaves by foot or by boat to the Deep South, specifically Natchez and New Orleans, and then selling those slaves at slave auctions for an enormous profit. Due to a surplus of slaves in the Chesapeake Bay region, slave traders could not fetch high prices for slaves in Virginia or Maryland. Therefore, Armfield bought slaves and kept them at the firm's jail-like facility in Alexandria until enough slaves were purchased to make transporting them to the Deep South worthwhile. Once the firm purchased enough slaves, a large group of slaves would proceed to New Orleans or Natchez by foot or by boat. In the Deep South, Franklin could sell these slaves for a profit. During the 1830s, Franklin and Armfield sold 1,000 to 1,500 slaves in the Deep South per year. In the Deep South, slaves from Virginia and Maryland were highly prized because they were seen as more compliant than the overworked slaves from the Deep South. Furthermore, the prohibition on the importation of slaves and the growing global demand for cotton created a shortage of slaves in the Deep South. Cultivating cotton was labor-intensive and required slaves. The two started their firm, Franklin and Armfield, in 1828. The firm was located at 1315 Duke Street in Alexandria, Virginia. In May 1828, John Armfield signed a multi-year lease, then placed an ad in the Alexandria Phoenix Gazette. He had taken up residence in the house. He could be found there at all times, and he wanted to buy slaves. Looking to purchase 150 likely young Negroes of both sexes between the ages of 8 and 25 years. Armfield promised to pay higher prices in cash than any other purchasers that are in the market, or that may hereafter come into market. He signed the ad with the name of the company he and Isaac Franklin had created a few months earlier, Franklin and Armfield. The building that housed the firm remains at that location today and is an historic site. Franklin and Armfield's headquarters in Alexandria was massive. It took up half a square block on Duke Street. The walled compound included a 3-story, federal-style townhouse that served as the business office, separate housing and pens for male and female captives, kitchens, stables, a hospital, and a tailor shop in which enslaved women made clothing for captives to wear on their arrival in the Deep South. It was a facility dedicated to carrying out the domestic slave trade on an industrial scale. The Franklin and Armfield compound was similar to a penitentiary, with the same apparatus of high walls and bolts and bars to secure the prisoners. Men, women, and children were packed into the building's courtyard and exposed to the elements. In these courtyards, slaves were subject to brutal beatings, rapes, and countless other forms of cruelty. Franklin and Armfield raped female slaves, especially fancy girls, and bragged about it in letters to each other. Both men fathered children with female slaves who were in their captivity. In 1830, the Virginia census indicated that the slaves at the Alexandria facility were mostly children and teenagers. On a daily basis, Armfield advertised in Alexandria and District of Columbia newspapers that he wanted up to 150 enslaved people between the ages of 8 and 25. In addition, Armfield would send agents across Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware in search of slave owners who were willing to part with their slaves for relatively cheap prices. In the 1830s, as crops such as tobacco became less profitable, plantation owners in the Chesapeake Bay region found that selling off surplus slaves produced a reliable source of income. In the meantime, land for cotton cultivation was expanding in the Deep South because of the Indian removal policies of the federal government. Federal deportation of the Choctaw and Chickasaw peoples yielded 18 million acres of land in Mississippi for growing cotton. White people poured into Mississippi to seek their fortune, and they bought land and slaves. As a result of growing demand, 100,000 slaves were transported to Mississippi to grow cotton. Fancy trade. Concerning its highly lucrative fancy trade, the firm's goal was to supply fancy girls from the Chesapeake Bay region to buyers in the Deep South for sexual exploitation. The firm purchased young, attractive, light-skinned female slaves for cash who they believed could bring them a big profit at auction in the Deep South. The firm purchased young female slaves in places like Alexandria, Baltimore, and Richmond. The firm would eventually sell these young female slaves on credit in places like Natchez and New Orleans for a huge profit. Unfortunately, once a young female slave was in the firm's custody, she was routinely raped by members of the firm's staff. The sexual and physical violence might continue for months until the female slave was auctioned to a buyer in the Deep South. Eventually, the female slave would be transported to places like New Orleans or Natchez to be sold at slave auctions as a fancy girl. Fancy girls were auctioned for the purpose of sexual exploitation and would be used by her buyer as a prostitute or concubine. Franklin and Armfield referred to themselves as one-eyed men, a euphemism for their penises. They frequently spoke about raping light-skinned female slaves. Franklin and Armfield brought light-skinned female slaves for their customers in the Deep South, but also for their own sexual gratification.
Savagery is not in our culture. So the problem that South Africans have right now is that we don't understand white people. White people are inferior species to us. We are Homo sapiens. They've got Neanderthal blood in them. This is the science, and this is not science that was done by black people, it was done by them. You understand? About Clive W. Lewis, they were eugenicists. They studied this, and they realized that they're inferior to blacks.
Margaret Sanger from the US.
Well, I mean, she was more about controlling the birth of blacks.
Bill Gates.
Yeah. But the reason why they did
eugenics,
that... Eugenics, right? Yes. Yeah. So the waist-to-hip ratio determines how well a woman is able to give birth. And we've got the highest waist-to-hip ratio in the world. You know what I mean? Women have got small waists and really big hips or big bums or whatever the case may be. White women cannot carry births the same way black women can. They're inferior in that way. Why is it inferior? Because, God said Zalana Nandi, right? So if you're not making babies, your nation is going to get smaller. The white population is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. I had this conversation with Penwell the first or second time I went to the Convo Show, which has now got over 200,000 subscribers. Congrats to him.
Congratulations to Penwell. Proud of you, bro. And congrats to Caesar as well. They've also just cracked 200K.
Oh, yes. 200K or more than that?
Caesar, yeah. He's just cracked 200K.
Not 500K. Or maybe it's...
I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe it's because, he's got a VIP guest. Anyone who gets invited by Susan Mpofu is definitely running there. He's killing the game in terms of getting the guests that people really need and want. So when you look at the white population shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, for us, it makes no sense to descend into the savagery that they have. Whatever land that they're holding on to, either way, their numbers are dwindling. Whatever leadership that they had is dying out as well. And about wealth disappearing after the third generation that it's passed down to. So they're on the last generation. We're dealing with the weakest whites that the world has ever seen. And again, I want to explain this so that people don't think that, I'm being racist by saying whites are inferior genetically. So we expect to have Ubuntu, humanity. Unfortunately, by the strictest definition of what a human being is, white people are just below human beings. You are negotiating with an animal, a wild dog that you're trying to train to be tamed, to be ubobi, you who guards your house. You can never do that. So we're expecting Ubuntu from them. We're like, you stole our land, you butchered our people and everything else, and we just want justice. We're not out for your blood. We're not chopping off your heads. We're not doing anything. Why don't you guys understand that? Why don't you guys have Ubuntu? Why don't you guys have a heart? They don't, because they're incapable of that. You cannot expect the same behavior of a human being that you're expecting of a dog. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if a dog chews up your couch, you're not going to beat your dog because he chewed up your couch. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, damn, why didn't I lock the dog somewhere where it can't chew up the couch? So us as black people, we need to now start being smarter. We need to start understanding what we're dealing with, because we're not dealing with a who. We're dealing with a what. You understand? And when we deal with this what of savages, because that's their history, everywhere in the world white people have gone and progressed. They've progressed because of savagery. They've killed people. They've decimated populations everywhere around the entire globe. There's not a place where the sun shines that white people have not decimated the people. In the world, you go to Australia, they decimated the natives. You go to America, they removed the natives completely to a small minority. Even there's more African Americans than Native Americans. That's the whole entire point. So we now want to say, oh no, be sensible. They will lie.
Alright, so this video is about black people and how they're actually superior, not just physically and all this and genetically and all that stuff, but actually they're the chosen people. Not all black people, but a lot of them, and even I could say, I don't know if I could say most of them, but many of them. Specifically the people that are living in America, and specifically the people who have been sent all over the earth on slave ships. Those people are superior, even in the Most High's eyes himself, because those people are the Israelites. And there's a scripture that says, not only it says if you bless them you'll be blessed, but there's also one that says you have to cling to them or you can't even be saved. So for one, that means acknowledging who they are, obviously. And for two, it means reading even their own scriptures, because these scriptures are not for everyone. They're for them, and if you want to follow after their God, but he's not all people are his people. You see how that works? So if you want to even be saved, you need to get in line, and you need to step behind his chosen people.
For what their forefathers have
That's
done.
right.
You understand? Keep going, man. Keep it coming, man. You understand? Keep it coming. Only a couple more, two more. And Salaki, the cameraman, you can't forget. You can't forget Ayaz Zahab over here, a brilliant producer. Man, you understand? I'm sorry, Kurt. Get it in, man. These white people are here, man. What's your name? Skylar and Seth. Oh, man, his mother knew. Name him after one of the sons of Noah. You understand? Seth. You understand? Hey, man, no sweat. No sweat. Get these white people in here, man. Now, when Christ comes back and establishes his kingdom on the earth.
Now, let's go to another lefty losing it. Here we have a self-loathing woman suffering from a severe case of white saviour complex.
Lord, right here in the ISUPK under Commandant General Yohana, man. This is the Lord's work right here, man. This is the Lord's work right here. And this is a good white woman, man. She's showing her deeds, man, to the Lord, man. And the Most High may show favor to her, man, when Christ...
All I care about right now is whether or not white people can avoid being either enslaved or killed on Judgment Day. I headed to their top secret headquarters after an extensive security screening to ask Captain Tazariak what a white man can do to pay the price for his father's sins.
Real quick, Captain, we're in the HQ. Who do we have beneath me right now? You're stepping on him.
This is Caesar Borgia. That's who they say Jesus Christ is. So when you come in, you actually step on the white man. They made him to replace the greatest man. So that image right there, that would be a biblical depiction of Christ when it says hair was white and the texture was woolly, the skin is bronze, so even the garment being green. But this is not Jesus. This is the book I'm talking about. So this is called the Russian Icons. And when you open it, these are the original artwork and imagery of Christ and the disciples.
And how do we know this?
So this is artwork that they found in Europe and Russia in what they call the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages was a time when black people ruled Europe. And so as we rule Europe, we're giving out the truth. So when the white man come out them caves and they start coming in power, the Renaissance era was like a rebirth or a whitewashing. You can even find a black image of Mary in the Roman Catholic Church. And so what's beautiful about this is this not written by us. So see how this image is black? They redo the image and then make it white. So you'll notice you see the flags all throughout the school.
Yeah.
So each flag represents each tribe and the symbol that's synonymous with that tribe. The swords, we're very militant. You know, we're not Christians. We'll whoop your ass if necessary. So we fight.
Well, you guys were training earlier, right? Hand-to-hand combat.
Christ said in the Bible to sell what you have and go purchase a sword. So Christ didn't.
So Christ is a man of blood and steel.
Yeah, Christ whooped ass in the church. I say this all the time. Christ beat people in the temple. Christ wasn't somebody that was a soft and sissy guy. He just did the job that God said, where God said, you're going to be the sacrifice to redeem Israel. So he did take the death, but he was about warfare. The thing that a white person could give me is their life. Like if I'm being...
Kill themselves?
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad you said it. Whatever you give me would just be a token.
Like the deferential bow?
Yeah, like the bow, the boot kiss. All of that is tokens. When true vengeance is you not existing, because as the longer you exist, the more I'm oppressed.
When you see like a white baby, are you like, God, I wish you were aborted?
When I see a white baby, I'll be like, he's gonna try to enslave my people when he gets older.
Do you think racism is a good thing?
I think it's a natural thing for ethnicities to stick to their own. What becomes unnatural is when one ethnicity wants to rule over another one and then another one. That's the white man. The white man ain't content with just having his own.
So is there a time God...
Tre che avete firmato l'accordo di pace.
And to the three of you who have signed the peace agreement,
vi chiedo come fratello,
I ask you as a brother,
rimanete nella pace.
Stay in peace. A process.
Che finisca bene.
Thank you very much, Holy Father.
But he said when you actually scientifically look at white people, you know, monkeys are hairy. White people are the hairiest people
on Earth.
On Earth. I am really hairy. Like seriously.
I don't shave.
No, I shave all. I'm shaving
I
right
don't.
now.
I
got hair on my back,
coming up
my
up
chest
through
is all hairy.
The hair coming
I got
up
hair on my ears,
collar. Okay,
I got
these were highly overlooked similarities.
Yeah, the big ears. White people usually have big ears.
Bigger ears around.
Monkeys have thin lips. White people, I have thin lips.
Yes.
So really, I look more like a monkey than... Yeah.
And now find all the similarities between white people and chimpanzees. And it start with the fully hairy bodies, the huge ears,
I have big ears.
And the person who wants, look at my ear here. How big is that?
Pretty small.
All right.
Yeah.
And people say, well, how about Obama? He's the first black president and he's got big ears. He's exactly half white.
Well, he's probably
we
more
call him
than
a black
white.
president.
Well, no, yeah, his dad comes from Africa. His
He's
mom
exactly
is totally white. He's exactly half
white.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
No doubt those big ears come from his mama. Okay? So the point is, I'm just saying, look, these are just white people wanting to return to their roots in the trees. Okay? It's all, look out
Right.
and take a look at a chimpanzee's lips. They're razor thin. All right? And we've got some very famous large-lipped black people, Jay-Z among them. All right? I don't have small lips. So they overlooked so much.
Yeah.
Okay? I got to add one just while you went there, so I'm going to add one.
Let's go.
Do you know lice outbreaks are 30 times more likely in white people than in black people?
Really?
The lice just don't enjoy black hair.
Okay.
For whatever reasons,
Whatever
it is 30 times more likely. Okay, just if you put lice in the hair, it'll want to go to the white people's hair. We ever see chimpanzees pruning each other?
Oh yeah, they pick the
They're
lice
picking out the
Yeah,
lice. And
right.
apparently lice is tasty because they eat it. So this is a huge exercise. And anyhow, it goes on and on. The fact that you have likely never seen black children walk by a tree and say, I want to build a house in that tree and live there. Okay. This is like a suburban white kid thing. All right. And so these are just white people wanting to return to their roots in the trees.
White eyes age the fastest, often developing crow's feet and deep bags decades before non-white people. White beauty standards have always been inconsistent and hypocritical. White people are extremely ugly. It's just a fact. White supremacists love to push beauty standards that favor white features. But let's be real. White people have historically been some of the ugliest people on Earth. From pasty skin prone to wrinkles to historically inbred royal families to the sheer lack of symmetry in many white faces, there's a long, well-documented history of white people being objectively less attractive than other groups. White people wrinkle, sag, and develop skin damage faster than any other racial group. Studies show that white skin ages more rapidly due to lower levels of melanin, leading to sagging, sunspots, and earlier wrinkles. White women often get smoker's lines around their lips by their 30s, even if they don't smoke. Sun exposure damages collagen faster in white skin, which is why white people start to look like leather by middle age. Meanwhile, darker skinned people age like fine wine. Black, Latino, and Asian skin has natural UV protection, preventing rapid aging. This is why black celebrities like Pharrell and Angela Bassett look 30 years younger than their white counterparts. White people constantly mock others for their looks, but they're the only group that needs Botox by 35 to keep their face from falling apart. White European royalty married their cousins for centuries, leading to some of the most unattractive faces ever recorded. The Habsburg family of Spain and Austria became so inbred that they developed underbites, bulbous noses, and elongated skulls. King Charles II of Spain was so inbred that he couldn't even close his mouth properly. European monarchies kept marrying within their bloodline, leading to genetic disorders and deformed features. Even today, white rural populations have high rates of inbreeding. Studies show that rural white communities in Appalachia and Europe still have significant genetic overlap. The infamous blue Fugates of Kentucky were so inbred that their skin turned blue due to a genetic disorder. Meanwhile, most indigenous African and Asian societies practice genetic diversity through exogamy, marrying outside of close family ties. White people love to claim racial purity, but their obsession with keeping things pure has just led to them looking weird, lumpy, and asymmetrical. Across history, society has viewed white features as undesirable or plain. In ancient times, Africans, Arabs, and Asians were seen as the height of beauty, while Europeans were seen as dull and unattractive. The earliest depictions of white travelers in Asia and Africa mock their pale skin and odd features. Even the Greeks and Romans admired African and Middle Eastern beauty, with many of their paintings and sculptures reflecting non-European ideals. Modern beauty studies show that white features are ranked lower. A global study on facial symmetry found that features associated with non-white populations were considered more attractive. White noses are often too big or too thin, making them look unnatural compared to the balanced features of other groups. White men, in particular, are often ranked as the least attractive group in global dating surveys. White people try to push Eurocentric beauty standards, while history and science prove their features have been considered subpar for centuries. White hair is thin, weak, and ages horribly. White people are more likely to go bald early. White men often start balding in their 20s, while black and Asian men have full hairlines for decades. White hair is prone to split ends and damage, requiring tons of products to keep healthy. Meanwhile, black, indigenous, and Asian hair is naturally thicker, stronger, and healthier. White lips, noses, and eyes are either too extreme or too weak. Thin lips, weak chins, and large bulbous noses are common features among white Europeans. White people love to mock full lips, but white women spend billions on lip liners to look more ethnic. White eyes age the fastest, often developing crow's feet and deep bags decades before non-white people. White beauty standards have always been inconsistent and hypocritical. They mock black and Latino features and then get surgery to look less white. White skin was historically seen as weak and unhealthy. In many non-European cultures, darker skin was seen as a sign of strength and resilience, while pale skin was seen as a sign of weakness. European aristocrats hid from the sun to avoid getting darker, but by the 20th century, white people started tanning because they realized they looked better with some color. Now, white people damage their skin just to look more ethnic. White people spend billions on tanning beds and fake tan products because their natural skin tone is seen as bland. Meanwhile, people with naturally darker skin don't have to risk skin cancer just to have a warm complexion. White people like to mock darker skin tones, then turn around and do everything they can to look less pale. The most common plastic surgeries among white women are to fix white features. Nose jobs to reduce long or narrow European noses. Lip fillers to get fuller lips like black and Latino women. Butt and hip implants to mimic non-white body types. Meanwhile, non-white women are naturally celebrated for their features. White women have to buy curves, lips, and tans, while black, Latina, and Middle Eastern women naturally have features that white women pay for. Look at early Hollywood actors and you'll see some of the most awkward faces ever. Audrey Hepburn, Bette Davis, and Katharine Hepburn were considered beautiful, despite looking average by today's standards. White male stars like Steve Buscemi, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Adam Driver are proof that white beauty standards are weird. Meanwhile, non-white beauty icons have aged far better. Compare Angela Bassett to Madonna, or Denzel Washington to Brad Pitt. Black and brown stars look decades younger. White actors rely on surgery, tanning, and fillers just to keep up. White beauty standards were created out of insecurity, because deep down, white people have always known that they are the least naturally attractive group.
The white model who took melanin injections to become black has spoken out about the BLM movement and how she hasn't yet experienced racism. I'm John, and this is Facts Factory. This is Martina Big. She is a 32-year-old German model who identifies as a black woman. Yep, you heard that correct. Martina was born as a white woman who had blonde hair and pale skin, but when she reached adulthood, She decided this wasn't the life she wanted due to living as the wrong race. She started taking melanin injections a few years ago. But what exactly is melanin? Melanin is the pigment that gives our skin, hair, and eye their color, and having darker skin means that more melanin is present in the body. So when Martina started injecting herself with melanin, her skin started to get noticeably darker. She now identifies as an African woman. She believes she has always, deep down, been African, and she even embarked on a trip to Kenya to be baptized with her people. You really can't make these things up. Many believe that the model is delusional. Last year, she told The Sun Online, "I not only look like an African woman, but I also feel that I'm now an African woman. I spent time in Kenya last year and I felt so at home. Now I have a lot of invitations from all over Africa." Martina even spoke about having children with her husband, who also takes melanin injections, and how they will be born black. Doctors said they will be black. "We have also discussed breastfeeding, and if it is safe for me to have a baby," she said in an interview on This Morning, a British breakfast show. She later clarified, "Doctors say that I am physically now a black woman, and my future children will be black. And I believe the doctors." Of course, there are many people who are fully against what Martina is doing, and the model has been accused numerous times of cultural appropriation and blackface. Many people stand behind the fact that you simply cannot change your race like you can with gender, and the ways in which she has modified her body in order to become a black woman are seen as racist and disrespectful. But regardless of what people think of her, Martina continues to proudly talk about her experiences as a newfound black woman, and she has recently spoken of the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren and I'm Maureen. So you guys have watched this video that we've played you, and the biggest question we are asking today is, why are white people in sudden need of our melanin? Why are they going after melanin injections?
To my people who was naturally born with melanin in y'all skin, y'all are going to want to hear this shit. They are now getting melanin injections. TikTok this for entertainment purposes only.
We have been doing it.
So I was thinking when you sat down, you're looking very pale. This is all well and good. I mean, you have the, as you say, you've got the messy tanning products, and then you try the sunbeds. Yeah. And then there's the injections.
Look at her.
So this was your brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, my brother.
So explain how this happened.
He just came in one day and he was a completely different color, and we were like, what actually happened? And he was like, it was tannin injections, and then obviously Ben had to try them.
I don't have that much time on my hands to go outside and enjoy the beautiful weather lately, and I want to be tan by summer, so this is the safest and fastest way to achieve that. So this is my Melanotan vial. It will come in the mail and it looks like this. It does have to be refrigerated. We also will provide you with alcohol prep swabs and insulin needle. So you'll take the alcohol swab, wipe off the top, just so it's sterile. Uncap the top, you have a fine needle.
Did y'all see that woman's face? That is a white woman. She is a white woman. Her skin, she is darker than me from injecting herself with melanin. Do y'all understand? Like, do you understand? And it's crazy because people say so many black people go missing all the time and nobody knows. We don't know what's going on. Y'all, if you don't know, go do your research. Go hit that search bar. Go look on Google. Go find it out. But melanin is more valuable than gold. It is. It is. Go look it up. And these people are injecting themselves. Where are they getting it from? Where are you getting it from?
Why are they going after melanin injections? So let's watch this video and then we come back and talk about it.
I don't think the struggles of the white community are talked about enough. Oh, I look like Mr. Krabs.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Weissman. I'm answering a question about why white people get more sunburns and more skin cancers, and what it comes down to is melanin, the pigment in your skin. So pigment is designed to absorb UV light. The full name of UV light is UV radiation. When ultraviolet light or even visible light hits your skin, it damages the DNA in your skin cells. UVB is the short wavelength, UVA is the long wavelength. UVA can go through window glass, so even if you're sitting by a window, you're getting exposed to UVA and you're increasing your risk of wrinkles and skin cancer. If you have more melanin in your skin, it's absorbing that energy and preventing it from damaging the DNA in your skin cells. If you get a lot of sun exposure, your body goes, oh my gosh, we have to make some melanin. That's why people who can tan will get a tan with sun exposure. Their body's trying to protect the DNA in the skin cells.
Be aware that the image we're about to show is quite graphic. It's a picture of 27-year-old Tani Willoughby that's going viral and reveals the personal struggles she's faced with skin cancer and the aftermath of being diagnosed multiple times. This morning, a warning to lovers of a tanning glow. 27-year-old Tani Willoughby posting a shocking photo on Facebook showing her bare face after a cancer treatment, writing, "If anyone needs a little motivation to not lay in the tanning bed and sun, here you go. You only get one skin and you should take care of it." Her photo going viral, shared over 60,000 times.
I don't think that a lot of people realize what skin cancer even means, and just to see that image puts it into perspective.
Willoughby says she grew up tanning, even owning her own tanning bed, sometimes using it up to 5 times a week for 5 years.
I did know that tanning beds weren't safe. I was 16 around that age, and I just didn't care. I felt invincible.
The proud mom was first diagnosed with skin cancer at 21, but after quitting cold turkey, returned to tanning before her wedding.
I got a little bit of a tan before my wedding, and at my next checkup a year after that, I had more skin cancer.
Willoughby, fighting skin cancer 6 times, now she's cancer-free. But precancerous spots continue to appear on her body.
I have a 2-year-old that I really would like to be around for, and to miss time with him because of the tanning bed is just not worth it.
You don't want to be the next statistic. Try to stay out of the sun. Just do everything to prevent skin cancer while you're young.
Experts say with 3.5 million cases of skin cancer a year, there are better ways to obtain that bronze glow.
You can use a sunless tanner at home, you can get a spray tan, or you can use bronzer.
So guys, from the images we've shown you, it clearly shows that white people cannot go outside in the sun for more than, please correct us if you're wrong, for more than 2 to 3 hours, because when they out there for that long, they have higher chances of getting skin cancer, and you can see how their skins behave and it starts to peel off. While black people, you can literally sit in the sun for a whole day and things like this won't happen to us. Why? This is because for us black people, because we have melanins in our skin, we can be able to walk under the sun. It protects us from the UV lights of the sun. So for us black people, having melanin literally means that we absorb information faster than white people. Like, there's some advantages we enjoy to having melanin skins. For a long time, we have been made to feel, even here in Africa, you know, you grow up with that colonial mindset that, you know, having a dark skin or having more melanin is bad, you know, because of the colonial mindset. So you wish to have white skin, you understand? So only now, thank God for the age of social media, can we be able to see the effects of having white skin, the things that they're limited to doing because they have white skin. You have to literally step out with sunscreen so that you can be able to enjoy the beautiful day that God has given to us. Cause right now is when I myself I've started to really appreciate what it means to have melanin. Why? Because melanin gives me the color of my eyes. It helps me see spectrums of color better than white people do. Melanin gives me the color of my hair. Melanin gives me the color of my skin, which we weren't taught to appreciate. Just now we are beginning to appreciate. Why? Because our melanin gives us the ability to absorb the rays of the sun and turn it into a good energy, you know. Because here in Kenya, most of me and my twin, when we usually feel bad, we usually tell ourselves, let's go for a short walk, and when you come back into the house, we'll surely be in a better mood. Why? Melanin converts all this energy into good energy, you know. And that's why whenever you're around black people, you'll always hear people say black people have the best energy ever, you know. Black people are the happiest people ever, you know. Yeah. So guys, right now you've seen from the first videos that white people are really trying to, you know, replicate melanin. They're even getting melanin injections. Yes, and right now they're not even satisfied with tanning themselves, or you know. So right now the best and quickest and easiest way for them to get melanin is through melanin injections. The question we're asking is, where is the origin of these melanin injections they have? There have been speculations. Right now, we'll just say allegedly, because we don't know the whole truth of the matter. Maybe you can tell us in the comment section if you do. So it is being alleged that these white people, in order to get these melanin injections, the scientists are actually experimenting on black people, some people who have gone missing and never to be known where they went. So these doctors are experimenting and they are extracting melanin from actual black people. Yeah, so I don't know how true this is. You guys, maybe you can let us know in the comment section. Another thing we want to put across, another point we want to put across is that right now melanin retails for melanin is actually more valuable than gold. Melanin, 60 grams of gold, you can't compare it to melanin, because gold will retail for way less, and melanin goes for, I saw somewhere that they're selling it for $480. We are not sure. We'll attach the figures on the screen. And for melanin to actually be a commodity that is being hawked out there, some people know how to get it other than the natural resources, which are, you can get them in animals and whichever place. Also the human melanin, some people know where they're getting it, and if these injections are becoming very rampant and famous amongst white people, you just have to ask yourself, where is this melanin coming from? So with that question in mind, please leave us a comment on what you think about this episode, and we'll surely see you in our next episode.
My brother and I read a book called The Mark of Oppression. And these two publishers, Cardiner and Oversea, said that they could not understand how is it that a group of people, African Americans, have been bludgeoned over their heads mentally and spiritually for hundreds of years and are still surviving. They couldn't understand it, and they said so in their book. The answer came out in 1996, why it is that not only have African Americans survived the worst mental and spiritual bludgeoning of any people in recorded history, but they are becoming champions of everything in which there is a level playing field. No matter what it is, we predominate in every field. This is why they won't teach our children African history, because they know that once our children get on the same level playing field as their white counterparts, that they will dominate just like we dominate in basketball, baseball, football, track and field, and anything else in which there is a level playing field. So that while they teach their children about the greatness of their European ancestors, they won't teach our children about the greatness of their African ancestors, because then that would be a level playing field in academia, and they know that we will predominate just like all of these examples we've given them, that our children predominate when they know who they are from the African historical point of view. Now here's what I found out in 1996. A group of geneticists wrote this book. Little tiny pen. Geneticists.
Can you identify where they're from and the group, how it came about?
Yeah, okay. All right, sure. Yes, indeed. As an organization is called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The American Association for the Advancement of Science. Now, this organization is composed of people who study about DNA and the genome. And you've been reading about the DNA and the genomes. Well, this group of scientists came upon an idea by accident at first, that different groups of people had different numbers of DNA series.
Explain that.
Now, a DNA series means that when your DNA is located, and say they get a hair from your head and they subject it to certain tests, they say, well, this is the DNA of Minister Brown, and yours is different from everybody else in the world, all right? Then they found further that not only are their DNA series different, but the number of DNAs in there are different in different groups. Whites have a different number of DNA, and blacks have a different number of DNA series. Apes have a different number of DNA series. Then they found this amazing thing, that the greater the number of DNA series, the smarter the person, the group is, the greater the probability of genius within that group. So they tested the orangutans, these 15 geneticists from around the world. Now, these geneticists came from 9 different universities. And we have here on the cover of the pamphlet they put out the names of these geneticists. And you can see them right there, right beneath the title of this pamphlet. Now, this pamphlet, most people have no idea what it means. But breaking it down, and after you study it and have it explained to you by a geneticist, a trained geneticist, you will find that they're talking about DNA series. Now, here are the names of these 15 geneticists from around the world: University of Japan, University of China, Yale University is the headquarters of this organization called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And you see it down there. Now, this was copyrighted in 1996. All right. What it said is this, and this is the mind-blowing part. It said that when they tested the orangutan, they found out he only had 3 DNA series. When they tested the gorilla, they found out the gorilla has 4 DNA series, because he's a little smarter than the orangutan. They tested the chimpanzee, which is an ape, and found that he had 5 DNA series. Then they went all into the different races of the world. They went into Europe and tested the DNA series of the English, the French, the German, the Spanish, the Russians, and found they had 6 DNA series. Then they put all of this, what they found from around the world, on a map. And this map really is called the intelligence map of the world, because they tested 116 different human groups and found their DNA series numbers. All of them, all over the world, have 6. And they put the numbers in form of a little flag that you can see on this map. These little flags have a color. And they show, oh, this is upside down. I'm sorry. Yeah. And they showed that the English have only 6, and it's all into Europe, only 6. Went over into Japan and China, and they only have 6. Over into America, with a predominantly European, and they only have 6. Then they came to Africa, and they came to the part of Africa. Now, all the rest of them, they put in little flag colors. Those flag colors are orange, red, if you notice. But when they came to Africa, found out that the African people have 9 DNA series, from here just below the Shanghai Empire down to the foot of Africa. All those 10 nations, of which African Americans descended from one of them. We have 9 DNA series, the greatest possibility of genius in our group. Now it's answered this age-old question: how can a people survive being told they're nothing for 400 years, never allowed to learn that they came from beautiful cities, and told they came from a jungle? How could a people survive? How can a people become champions in everything they touch? Because they have 9 DNA series, while the rest of the world has only 6. This is why they copyrighted this. And you'll notice on the outside of this, now this map is taken, I took this map right from this page here, and I blew it up so that the world could see it. Even though this is copyrighted, I can't let you have this book because it's copyrighted.
Can you give us the title of the book?
The title of the book is called Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 Locus and Modern Human Origins. Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 Locus and Modern Human Origins. Now, you have to be a geneticist to even know what they're talking about. But when we broke it down and interviewed Dr. Kidd, the head, he's the chairman at Yale University, we broke it down into plain, everyday English so that the world would know that the African American is descended from those people who gave to the world the Great Pyramid, gave to the world science, gave to the world mathematics, A black man named Ahmose gave algebra to the world 3,700 years ago. It's in the world books, it's in the encyclopedias. They don't want our children to know this, because then that would make the playing field level for white children. And you know what happens when they made the playing field level in basketball and allowed black men to play. Out of 29 of the top seeded players in the world today, 28 are African American. When they opened up the Penn relays, when they opened up the Olympics and allowed blacks to run back in 1932, we've won all the gold medals. And the same thing will happen in the classroom when they allow our children to learn their African history. That's what this is saying.
Let me leave you with some thoughts here.
Okay, please do.
There's a section here on race and color, which is another thing with the variation of what we have in the world. Just a point I want to make. When European anthropologists started running through Africa and started describing what they saw, their urge was to say, everyone in Africa is this thing, and they have dark skin, woolly hair, and that is a thing. And they called it a race, and they called it the Negroes, okay? And this is our attempt to classify into few categories something that might actually, in real life, be on a spectrum. We know that the human species began in Africa. And everybody who populates everywhere else in the world came out of Africa to do that. What that tells you is that the genetic diversity within Africa as the origin of our species is greater than it is between any other two people anywhere else in the world. But because the anthropologists were not thinking genetic diversity, they're thinking skin color. They put them all in one bin. But if you have the most genetic diversity, then in practically every way humans vary, you would find the extreme of that in the African continent. Where would you find the tallest people in the world? Watusi tribe of Africa. How about the shortest people in the world?
Pygmies.
The Pygmies. Not even that far away.
Right.
Geographically. They have the same skin color, so the Europeans said these are one group of people, one race. The fastest people, Africa. Okay? People of African descent have dominated the long distance as well as the sprint, two completely different physical abilities. Oh, but they're all dark-skinned people. They're all Negroes. Okay? How about the smartest person in the world? Africa.
How about the Egyptians?
The Europeans did not look for people smarter than they were. Okay? And to this day, where they find evidence where that might have been the case, you have people saying aliens did it. Egypt is, of course, in Africa.
Yeah.
A brilliant civilization. Oh my gosh. While Europeans were still either disemboweling heretics or whatever the hell they were doing, I was even before that, thousands of years ago. So my point is, if you don't look for it and you don't find it and you're going to create a map of humans of the world, you're going to put yourself at the top. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to write things like this. Who do you want to hear from? Thomas Jefferson or Francis Galton?
Jefferson.
Jefferson, 1785. Speaking of the Negroes, comparing them by their faculties of memory, reason, and imagination, it appears to me that in memory, they are equal to the whites. In reason, much inferior, as I think one could scarcely be found capable of tracing and comprehending the investigations of Euclid. And in imagination, they are dull, tasteless, and anomalous.
What is Euclid?
I honestly don't know how many Euclid-fluent white people Jefferson knew in the original American colonies. Euclid invented geometry. Okay, Euclidean geometry is ancient Greece. And his books still exist to this day. So he's saying the black slaves don't know Euclid, can't figure out Euclid.
Well, they haven't been educated.
Well, regardless,
The whole
how
thing is so
many
ridiculous.
white farmers in 1785 USA
also
knew Euclid?
Yeah,
No.
zero.
Okay. Okay. But whatever were his observations and objections to black people, he had no hesitation continually mating with at least one of them, producing 6 children. So you know what I did here? Then there's a guy who wrote a whole book comparing black people and white people, a book that was used into the 1960s. It was called The Origin of Races by Carlton Kuhn. He wrote, if Africa was the cradle of mankind, which he recognizes, it was only an indifferent kindergarten. Europe and Asia were our principal schools. So these are people putting themselves at the top. He's white, so he's got to put white people at the top. Then I thought, suppose anthropologists were black racists instead of white racists. What would they write? What would they come up with?
Well, also what he's saying is ridiculous because if it's kindergarten, how did they do the pyramids? It's the most complex structures ever known to man.
Hold on. So
and we can't reproduce today. All of it's ridiculous.
My only point is, when you have that mindset and you have to put yourself at the top, and all people with dark skin are one entity, you're not looking for people smarter than you. You're not. There's other evidence here. Do you realize that the people who get the highest scores on standardized tests in England are people, immigrants from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria? And their kids outscore all the quote native white people in the town. If you're not looking for them, you're not finding them. It just doesn't. It's a thing. It's all here in this chapter, and all I'm doing is bringing science to it. That's all I'm doing here.
I was born smart, duh.
Truly, intelligence does come in all shapes, sizes, and ages. These black kids are seriously impressive. From inventing radio stations to speaking 10 languages and playing musical instruments only adults could play, these kids are crushing it.
And the best part is?
They are all under 16. Here are 10 genius black kids who are so smart, nobody can beat. Number 10, Ramani Wilfred. This brainiac of a boy is so smart, his IQ could give Einstein and Hawkins a run for their money. Matter of fact, this kid could read and write even before the age of 3. No big deal, right? Wrong. Ramani went ahead and scored a whooping 162 on the Mensa IQ test when he was just 10 years old. The media went bananas over this kid, and he's been featured on all sorts of TV shows.
It's sort of satisfaction you feel when something clicks for you and you sort of just get it, and all of these puzzle pieces slot into place.
He's even been invited to speak at fancy adult events where he drops knowledge bombs on topics like science, tech, and education. Number 9, Anala Beavers.
Are you smart? How smart are you?
Really smart.
When Anala was born, her parents knew that she was a genius right off the bat.
She says she's smarter than you are.
She is.
I would agree.
She knew her ABCs at the tender age of 4 months. By the time she was 4, she was already reading and speaking Spanish fluently. No big deal, right? Well, not so fast. Anala went ahead and scored a whooping 145 IQ when she was just 4 years old.
She needs a reality show.
Number 8, Alana George. Alana George is a type of kid you've never seen before.
My name's Nona, and I'm 4 years old.
At the tender age of 4, she managed to score an IQ of 140, which is really, really high, like higher than Einstein and Hawking high.
By the time she was 3, she was able to do a 50-piece puzzle with just minimal help from me.
I can't even solve a 10-piece puzzle. Alana has been the second youngest member of Mensa, you know, the fancy club for super smart people. Apparently, she's been reading and writing since she was just 2. One of her many prowess is
Perfect pitch.
Alana, what's that again?
Perfect pitch. voices when someone presses a note and I have to guess what it is.
Despite having all this brain power, Alana's parents have said they don't want her to be defined solely by her intelligence. They just want her to have a normal childhood and enjoy doing the things she loves. Number 7. David Balogun. Of all the intelligent kids on the list, David is probably the one closest to having an argument with Neil and winning it.
He even came up with a theory to refute the Big Bang Theory.
According to the science, it's infinitely dense, which means it would have to constantly be generating matter in order to be infinitely dense. And since you can't do that, the Big Bang Theory would be wrong.
David is just 9, but is now one of the youngest people to ever graduate high school. David recently received a diploma from Rich Cyber Charter School, and he did all that remotely from his iPad. At least now we know iPads are not just fancy toys.
Well, everybody started talking about how this is an incredible accomplishment, and I was thinking how all I did is graduate. And then my mom saying, yes, you graduated at the age of 9. And then I say, yeah, I graduated. What's the big deal?
This kid already got his entire life ahead of him planned out. He wants to be an astrophysicist and study black holes and supernovas and David, what's that you want to do again?
Hologram computer. Or a computer that you just snap your finger and then you see a whole hologram of things to do.
Whatever that is, I'm pretty sure I can never comprehend. Number 6. Adam Kirby. Kirby is just a toddler, but don't let his cuteness deceive you. This kid is incredibly smart.
Africa goes. Whoa. Wow, where's Asia? Wow.
Kirby's parents first became aware of his advanced brains when he began speaking in full sentences at just 6 months old. They then had him assessed by a psychologist who determined that Adam had an IQ of 141, which is high enough to qualify anyone for Mensa. Kirby's achievements was widely covered in the media and he was interviewed on several television programs. However, his parents have made it clear that they are not pushing him academically and are instead focused on allowing him to enjoy his childhood. Number 5. Mabulu Su. I'm pretty sure I've met this one.
So, Mabu, tell me, why do you love languages so much? I mean, it's extraordinary how many you speak.
Well, I was born smart, duh.
I mean, we got to appreciate a little girl with confidence and a sense of humor. Mabulu Su is one exceptional kid whose talents and abilities have captured the attention of people around the world. With the support of her parents, Mabu continued to develop language skills, and by the time she was 4, she was fluent in French and Creole. Mabu's linguistic abilities continued to expand at a rapid pace, and soon she was speaking several other languages, including English, Spanish, Mandarin, Russian, and Arabic. Meanwhile, most people would struggle with affect and effect.
chanter tous l'été. وأنا أحب أن أكون نجمة سينمائية أرجنتينا براسي.
In addition to her language skills, Mabu also demonstrated an impressive musical talent, mastering the piano, violin, guitar, drums, trumpet, saxophone, just at the age of 5. Number 4. Carson Hu-Yu.
Mastering quantum physics is impressive on its own, but what's most remarkable about Carson Hu-Yu
as the second derivative of position with respect to time
is that he's only 14.
But that's not all. Carson went on to pursue his master's degree in physics and completed that when he was just 18, and he's also doing research in the field of quantum mechanics.
Around age 3, he loved math and he asked me if he could learn calculus, and I thought,
Carson indeed shows that age is just a number, because pursuing his PhD at such a young age, I mean, that's insane. Plus, his love for music and dedication to his community makes him an incredible kid. Number 3. Alina Nale. Alina is one smart cookie, or let me say biscuit. At the tender age of 13, she is already in medical school. That's not all, she also founded Brown STEM Girl, an organization that helps girls of color get into science, technology, engineering, and math. Meanwhile, at the age of 13, I was still struggling to make a decent cup of coffee. Alina is seriously impressive. Her work with Brown STEM Girl is super important, and it's amazing that she's been able to accomplish so much at such a young age.
I had my mom, who was my biggest support.
She always gave me opportunities over things, and she believed in me.
Number 2, Caleb Anderson.
I'm not really smart, I just grasp information quickly. So if I learn quicker, then I can get ahead faster.
Meet Caleb Anderson, the 12-year-old genius who has been recruited by Georgia Tech, aka a very difficult school to get into. He did all that at the age of 12. Meanwhile, I can't even remember people's names. Caleb is incredibly smart. We're talking reading fluently and doing advanced math at 3 years old kind of smart.
By age 1, he was reading.
Caleb.
Fun. 2, he knew sign language and how to do fractions.
I don't know about you, but at 3, I was still trying to figure out how to use a fork without stabbing myself in the eye. Hats off to you, Caleb. Number 1, Kelvin Doe. Kelvin Doe is a true inspiration. At 15, he invented his own radio station in Sierra Leone. And get this, the whole thing was powered by scraps.
Lights will come once in a week, and the rest of the month are dark. So I made my own battery to power lights in people's houses.
Kelvin's radio station was a hit, and it gave local musicians and community members a platform to share their voices and ideas. I mean, this kid was basically Sierra Leone's answer to Ryan Seacrest, and it wasn't just a gimmick. His invention caught the eye of MIT Media Lab, where he actually gave a speech at. Now, which of these kids impressed you the most?
This is an Anaparimp biorobotic hand prosthetic that uses brain signals to locomote its hand, to move the hand according to your desires.
When we were growing up together, we saw that the people living with disability in the towns, in the villages, they are going through a lot of difficulties in their day-to-day mobility and in doing their daily activities.
We wanted to help those people who have lost the use of their limbs, the disabled people. Our aim is to give them something that will help them or will aid them to go into their daily activities in order not to be a dependent person, to move from a dependent person to an independent person.
It's not bulky. It's easier for the persons with the ability to handle them. It's quite a game changer in terms of amputation and rehabilitation.
Learned about a young man in Africa who claimed to have built a car, a generator, and even a helicopter that ran on radio frequencies, a true free energy device that keeps batteries consistently charged. Once we arrived on site, our goal for the vetting was to establish that the device could power a welding machine, which uses a lot of electricity very quickly, for long enough that it couldn't be running on batteries alone.
If it's still a fully charged battery?
Dude! One final check of the battery voltage revealed a shocking result. Not only had the machine outlasted the expected battery life, but the batteries were still fully charged. This proved that the device was being powered from an unknown energy source.
Zimbabwean inventor has just unveiled a self-powered TV. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Master, that's Zim Tech Guy. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you do eventually end up liking the video, please hit that thumbs up button. In this video, we're going to talk about Maxwell Chikumbutso's latest invention, a self-powered television. For those who don't know who he is, here's a bit of background about this man. Maxwell Chikumbutso started a company called Saith Technologies over a decade ago. He has since unveiled an electric car, which doesn't need recharging, a helicopter, which can run on up to 5 fuels, including paraffin, drones, and generators which run on radio waves. What makes Maxwell Chikumbutso's inventions unique is that he did not go to school to study engineering or mechanics. In fact, Maxwell dropped out of school when he was just 14 years old. His ideas are as a result of research and visions from God. His latest invention is a self-powered TV. Imagine a TV that does not need electricity from your house to operate. This is exactly what Maxwell Chikumbutso's latest invention is. Here he is in action, explaining his technology.
This is our self-powered TV that we have designed. The first in the world to have such kind of a technology where a television is powered with a radio frequency. So as you can see right now, I'm powering this television. So this is the first television in the world that uses self-power to say. It is all in one. You don't need to put it on electricity or on solar panel or anything. As it is a complete solution. Behind the television, you can see that there is a microsonic energy device, this box. This is the device that is converting radio frequencies into pure energy. As you can see, the power of the cable was supposed to be here. On all traditional televisions, power comes here, but there's no power, as you can see. The television is working as it is. So in layman, I think this television is we can call it a self-powered television.
Maxwell Chikumbutso has in the past struggled to patent his products. 1, because he's not a qualified scientist, and 2, because his inventions apparently go against the laws of physics. But we sure hope that this self-powered TV will become a reality in people's homes, especially in Africa, where electricity supply is a challenge.
How Africans invented binary code and binary calculations well before computers existed in 2500 BC. Africans from the Nubio-Kemetic civilization complex, ancient Ethiopia, and ancient Yoruba all had binary methods of calculating that are far superior to the method taught today. In fact, it is so universal that it is used to perform calculations in all computers and microchips today. And it isn't just binary calculations. There are numerous math principles that were pioneered by black people, but erroneously attributed to the Greeks or the Sumerians. From the foundations of math to its most useful concepts, the evidence is voluminous.
Who really invented algebra? In 846, algebra as we know it was said to have been invented by Al-Khwarizmi, a Muslim polymath who lived in Baghdad. However, in 1650, 2,000 years before him, the Rhind papyri describes multiple high-level mathematical concepts, including algebra and Euclidean geometry. Here is an example of the many problems found in the African papyri. A quantity plus 1/7 of it becomes 19. What is the quantity? The Egyptians would solve their equations using a principle called the method of false assumption. They also already had the concept of a variable. What Al-Khwarizmi did was to formalize the approach as a more formal abstract technique. The Rhind papyri is a copy of a much older text. If anything, we know that the Africans from Kemet were using advanced math back in 2650 BC when the pyramids were built. Follow us to find more gems on our history and see how those who are said to be without history birthed civilization itself.
Whenever we talk about cultural appropriation, a lot of people seem to misunderstand the real definition of cultural appropriation. They seem to think cultural appropriation is when you use something that another culture or race invented, and usually a certain group of people automatically respond with, well, then you can't use the internet or the computer since we created it. Firstly, that's not what cultural appropriation is. To break it down in its simplest form, cultural appropriation is when you take something created or invented by a group of people, change the name of it, and claim that you invented or created it first. Kind of like plagiarism or intellectual property theft. I have an entire video about this, which will go into lots of details and is easy for anyone to understand. You might even realize that certain things that you thought fell under cultural appropriation actually don't. So that link will be in the description. Don't forget to check it out. Anyway, Back to the computer and the internet. What if I told you that these things were actually invented by Black people? Yes. What if the very thing you're using to watch this video on, whether it be a phone or a computer, was created by a Black person? Racist people can now throw away their phones, computers, and stop using the internet. But wait, what if there's more things that were created by Black people? Ooh, you better get your trash can ready and start throwing away a whole bunch of stuff. Because believe it or not, the majority of things we use today were in fact created by Black men and women. But I don't think you'd be able to survive not using Black inventions. Firstly, let's start with the computer. Dr. Mark Dean is the architect of the modern-day PC. He was instrumental in the invention of the PC. He helped IBM make breakthroughs in technology. Millions of jobs in information technology can be traced directly back to him. So, what about cell phones? Well, Henry T. Sampson was a pioneer in the technology used in cell phones. He also invented a gamma electric cell. He holds the patents related to solid rocket motors and conversion of nuclear energy into electricity. And Jesse Lee Russell was the inventor of digital cell phone technology and the engineer responsible for this multi-billion-dollar industry. So without these Black men, you wouldn't have a phone or a computer to use. But what about the internet? I mean, after all, how would you guys be able to hide behind the internet and troll? Meet Dr. Philip Emeagwali, aka the Bill Gates of Africa. He was born in Nigeria in 1954. And in 1989, Dr. Emeagwali used 65,000 processors to invent the world's fastest computer, which performs computations at 3.1 billion calculations per second. His work allowed a large number of computers to communicate at once. So without him, there would be no internet. The internet would not be what it is today. His computers are currently being used to forecast the weather and to predict the likelihood and effects of future global warming. These three things are things that most people today could not live without. Benjamin Banneker, in the 1750s, invented America's first clock. But that's not all he invented. When he was 15 years old, he invented an irrigation system to control water flow to crops from nearby springs. Jerry Lawson invented the first video games console and cartridges. His work gave life to Nintendo, Atari, Sega, PlayStation, and the Xbox. You name it, it was all because of him. So all you gamers have Jerry Lawson to thank. James Fortin invented a device for the improved handling of sails on large ships. James Edward Maceo West invented the Electret microphone. Alexa even uses James West's microphone as her hardware. So pretty much most YouTubers and singers and any artists that use a microphone have James Edward Maceo West to thank. Madam C.J. Walker invented a line of African hair products in 1905 and was the first American woman to become a self-made millionaire. Walter Sammons invented the hot comb. Lyda Newman received a patent for an improved version of the hairbrush. Charles Orrin Bailiff invented the shampoo headdress in the year 1890. Anybody like going to watch 3D movies? Well, without Kenneth J. Dunkley, you wouldn't be able to see it, because Kenneth J. Dunkley invented the 3D glasses. John Henry Thompson invented Lingo programming, a scripting language that helps render visuals in computer programs. Lingo is now used with many programs that have interactive simulations with graphics, animation, sound, and video. Along with Macromedia Director, Thompson has helped develop Media Maker, Actions, VideoWorks Accelerator, and VideoWorks 2. Lingo has also been used to create Flash and Shockwave programs that now are prevalent in video games, web design, animation, and graphics. In 1897, Andrew Beard received a patent for a device he called the Jenny Coupler. The Jenny Coupler automatically joined cars by simply allowing them to bump into each other. Or as Beard described it, the horizontal jaws engage each other to connect the cars. This African-American inventor sold the rights to his design for $50,000 and revolutionized the railroad industry. Meet Bessie Blount Griffin, a physical therapist, inventor, and forensic scientist who invented an electronic feeding device in 1951 to help amputees feed themselves. Dr. Donald Cotton invented a capillary liquid fuel nuclear reactor and developed a procedure to measure how solid propellants are burned. Omelets, anyone? Willis Johnson invented the egg beater, and William Purvis invented the improved fountain pen. Most people, when they think of peanut butter, they think of George Washington Carver. However, Mr. Carver actually didn't invent peanut butter. Instead, he discovered over 300 uses for peanuts. But he did invent peanut punch, antiseptic soap, baby massage cream, tan remover, face lotion, facial powder, hand lotion, shaving cream, dandruff cure, 17 different wood stains, 19 different dyes for leather, 30 different dyes for cloth, chili sauce, dry coffee, vinegar, iron tonic, laxatives, axle grease, diesel fuel, gasoline made from peanuts, glue, insecticides, linoleum, lubricating oil, nitroglycerin, printer's ink, plastic and rubber substitutes, laundry soap, and so much more. Who'd have thought you could do all of that with peanuts? Kinda sucks for people with allergies though, I guess. Thomas L. Jennings received a patent for a dry cleaning process called dry scouring. Thomas L. Jennings' dry scouring technique created a modern-day dry cleaning. But did you know the first clothes dryer was invented by George T. Sampson, which then led to the first tumble dryer, which was invented by J. Ross Moore? Now, if we're talking clothes, then you need an ironing board. That was invented by Sarah Boone. Ice cream, anyone? Augustus Jackson invented several ice cream recipes and invented an improved method of manufacturing ice cream, while Alfred L. Crail invented the ice cream scoop. Born on June 15, 1868, John Standard revolutionized the modern kitchen and was granted intellectual property rights to 2 patents throughout his lifetime, for the refrigerator and a patent improvement to the oil stove. But who invented the stove? That was T.A. Carrington. Now, speaking of refrigerators, Frederick Jones is famous for inventing an automatic refrigeration system in trucks. In addition to that refrigerator invention, Jones also invented the first air conditioning unit for a military field hospital, a refrigerator for military field kitchens, a self-starting gas engine, a series of devices for movie projectors and box office equipment that gave tickets and made change. Now, during the wintertime, everyone likes to turn the heating on, right? And we have Alice H. Parker to thank. She was an African-American inventor known for her contribution to the heating furnace. She invented a furnace that supplied central heating for entire homes and buildings, not just one particular room, but the entire building. Guess who invented the Super Soaker? Yep, you guessed it, a black man, Lonnie Johnson. Jan Matzliger invented the automatic shoe lasting machine, which completely changed the shoe industry. Instead of taking hours and hours just to make one pair of shoes, Jan's shoe lasting machine was able to crank multiple shoes out at crazy speed. The phrase "the real McCoy" was given to Elijah McCoy. He's best known for his work inventing and developing lubrication devices that made trains and railroad operations a lot more efficient. George Franklin Grant was the first black professor at Harvard. He was also a Boston dentist and an inventor of the Gulf tea. Granville T. Woods, the inventor of the improved telephone transmitter. The patent for his device, which combined the telephone and telegraph, was bought by Alexander Graham Bell. One of his most important inventions was the troller. No, not that kind of troller. A grooved metal wheel that allowed streetcars, later known as trolleys or trams, to collect electric power from overhead wires. He also invented an electric roller coaster called the Figure 8. Thomas Edison tried to sue Granville Woods, claiming that he was the first inventor of the multiplex telegraph. Granville Woods eventually won, and when Thomas Edison lost, he offered Granville Woods a prominent position in the engineering department of Edison Electric Light Company in New York City. Granville T. Woods looked at Thomas Edison and said, "Nah." Now, if I say who invented the light bulb, most people would jump up and down and say Thomas Edison. But Thomas Edison's light bulb would not work without the filament. You know and I know that when you turn a light switch off and you hear that little ping and the light doesn't go on, that's because the filament broke. So the filament is an integral part of the light bulb. Without it, you have no light, which was invented by Lewis Latimer. Paul L. Downing patented his mailbox on October 27, 1891, and called his invention a street letterbox. 1 year prior to inventing the mailbox, Downing patented an electric switch that allowed railroad workers to turn on or off the power supply to trains at the necessary times. Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, a theoretical physicist and famous Black inventor, has been credited with making many advances in science. While working at Bell Laboratories, Dr. Jackson conducted breakthrough scientific research that enabled her team to invent the portable fax, touch-tone telephone, solar cells, fiber optic cables, and the technology behind caller ID and call waiting. Now remember I mentioned fiber optic cables. So for those of you using the internet right now and have fiber optic broadband, you have Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson to thank. George Crumb invented the potato chips. Alexander P. Ashbourne invented the biscuit cutter. John Thomas White invented the lemon squeezer. And Sarah E. Good invented the folding bed. Now meet Garrett Morgan, the inventor of the gas mask and the traffic light. Richard Spice invented the automatic gear shift. And in 1839, Edmund Berger invented the spark plug. Joseph Gamow invented the supercharged system for the internal combustion engine. Thomas J. Martin was given a patent for the improved fire extinguisher in 1872, while Percy Julian also invented a fire extinguishing foam for gasoline and oil fires. Ellen Elgin invented a special type of clothes wringer, which was a machine that had two rollers in a frame that was connected to a crank. Clothes would be fed in between the two rollers, and as the crank was turned, the clothes would have the water pressed out of them. Sadly, she sold the device for $18 to a large company, fearing that it would lose value if people knew that a Black woman invented it. In 1899, John Burr perfected and invented the improved rotary blade lawnmower. Walter Wiley Jones started the first streetcar line, but the first Black car manufacturing company was owned by Frederick D. Patterson. Frederick D. Patterson built cars way before Henry T. Ford. It's also noted that Frederick D. Patterson's cars were built to a much higher standard than Ford. So what about diamonds? Now, of course, no one can invent a mineral or stone that is made naturally on Earth, right? But what about zirconias? Yes, the fake diamonds. The transparent composition and process to make cubic zirconias was invented by Jonathan Smith. On November 11th, 1969, George Caruthers was awarded a patent for his image converter for detecting electromagnetic radiation. During a 1970 rocket flight, George Caruthers' UV telescope or spectrograph, an image converter, provided the first proof of the existence of molecular hydrogen in interstellar space. Caruthers' invention was used on April 21, 1972, during the first lunar walk of the Apollo 16 mission. For the first time, scientists were able to examine the Earth's atmosphere for concentrations of pollutants and see UV images of more than 550 stars, nebulae, and galaxies. George Caruthers was awarded NASA's Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal for his work on the project. Robert T. Allen is responsible for the vertical coin counting tube. Now, did you know that rock and roll was invented by a Black person? The first rock and roll artists were Black. It was created by a woman called Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Rock and roll was actually slang for having sex. Now, speaking of rock and roll, Robert F. Fleming Jr. invented the electric guitar. But when you think of music, jazz, even country music and folk music were all created first by Black people. So next time someone tells you you're acting white because you're listening to rock and roll, or even punk rock, you can turn around to them and say, well, actually, this is a Black art form. And Thomas Elkins invented the improved chamber commode, aka a toilet. So think about that the next time you're sitting on the john. Ozzie Williams developed the first airborne radar beacon. This was useful for locating crashed aircrafts. Williams rockets are credited with saving the lives of the Apollo 13 astronauts. Tessima Dosho Shifarov invented the Bowflex exercise machine. And speaking of exercise, Kevin Woolfolk sat around and thought, hey, these hamsters are getting a little too chubby, and decided to invent the hamster workout wheel. Henry Blair invented the corn planter. Leonard C. Bailey also received the patent for the folding bed on July 18, 1899. He also invented a rapid mail stamping machine, a device to shunt trains to different tracks, and a hernia truss adopted into wide use by the U.S. military. Now, did you ever think of what it might be like if your television could project the on-screen image directly into your living room as a three-dimensional image? You know, something that looks absolutely real right there in front of you that you could almost grab and touch. I don't mean like a hologram, but something even more real. Probably not, right? But if it happens, you'll have African-American inventor Valerie Thomas to thank for it. From 1964 to 1995, Thomas worked in a variety of capacities for NASA, where she developed real-time computer data systems, conducted large-scale experiments, and managed various operations, projects, and facilities. While managing a project for NASA's image processing systems, Valerie Thomas spearheaded the development of Landsat, the first satellite to send images from space. In 1976, Thomas learned how concave mirrors can be set up to create the illusion of a three-dimensional object. She believed this would be revolutionary if technology could be harnessed to transmit this illusion. With an eye to the future, Valerie Thomas began experimenting on an illusion transmitter in 1977. In 1980, she patented it. In operation, concave mirrors are set up on both ends of the transmission. The net effect of this is an optical illusion of a three-dimensional image that looks real on the receiving end. This brilliant innovation placed Thomas among the most prominent Black inventors of the 20th century. NASA continues to use her technology and is exploring ways to use it in surgical tools and possibly television and video. Rumor has it that this technology is very close to being unveiled. Just imagine watching your favorite YouTuber in your living room, actually standing there in front of you, talking to you as if they were a real-life person actually sitting in your living room. Marie Van Britten Brown and her husband, Albert, created an early closed-circuit television system to be used for home monitoring. That security system was the forerunner of all advanced home security technology in use today. One of Otis Boykin's most famous inventions was a control unit for the artificial cardiac pacemaker. Dr. Charles Drew was instrumental in developing blood plasma processing, storage, and transfusion therapy. His groundbreaking work in the large-scale production of human plasma was eventually used by the U.S. Army and the American Red Cross as the basis for blood banks. So blood banks and blood transfusion, all down to Dr. Charles Drew. Dr. Patricia Bath is the first Black doctor to receive a patent for a medical invention. Patricia Bath's method for removing cataract lenses transformed eye surgery, using a laser device known as the laser phacoprobe, making the procedure more accurate. George Alcorn invented the imaging X-ray spectrometer, a device that helps scientists better understand what materials are composed of when they can't be broken down. The invention led to Alcorn's reception of the NASA Inventor of the Year award. Dr. Betty Wright Harris invented a test that detects explosives called the sensitive spot test. Jane Cook Wright was a pioneer in cancer research and surgeon noted for her contributions to chemotherapy. In 1893, the first successful open heart surgery was performed by a Black surgeon, Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Thomas A. Carrington invented the stethoscope. John Lee Love invented the portable pencil sharpener. Thomas Stewart invented the mop, and Lloyd Ray invented the dustpan. David Unaipon was an indigenous Australian of the Ngunnawal people. He invented an improved mechanical sheep-shearing hand tool, which completely revolutionized the wool industry. He also conceptualized and designed the helicopter 22 years before it became a reality. They referred to him as the Australian Leonardo da Vinci. Norbert Rillo was the inventor of the multiple effect vacuum evaporator, which revolutionized the processing of sugar. He gained recognition as one of the prime architects of the modern sugar industry. Samuel R. Scottron invented the curtain rod. The first documentation of the invention of a doorknob was in 1878. The U.S. Patent Office gave a patent for a door closing device by an African-American inventor named Osborne Dorsey, who also invented the doorstop. In the late 1800s, Albert C. Richardson invented the insect destroyer gun. The gun was used in crop fields to keep insects away from valuable commodities. How it worked isn't well known, but it seemed to be effective. William H. Richardson invented the reversible baby carriage. Going down? I'm going down. Well, whether you're going up or down, Alexander Miles invented the electric elevator. And there are so many more inventions that we don't know about because of the laws at the time, and also white people stealing their ideas and taking credit for them was a very common thing. But if you're interested in finding out more, Keith C. Holmes has a book called Black Inventors, which documents over 20,000 plus inventions by Black people. So the next time someone says, Black people never invented anything, or they tell you to stop using computers or the internet because it was invented by white people, you can correct them. Actually, they were invented by Black people. And many of the things we use today were also improved by Black people. Even deeper than that is they would not exist today if it wasn't for the greatest creation ever known, life. All life was created in Africa, and all leads back to one African woman. I'll put a link to that video on how white people were created. And I'll also put a link to a video that focuses on inventions made primarily by Black women. Peace, love, and coconut oil.
Hey man, that's racist. Please remember that from now on, brand new never before seen videos, as well as live streams, will only be available on my website, ikyg.com, via a Patreon subscription. ikyg.com is a Black-owned, Black-ran platform, 100% free from censorship. It's the only place where we don't have to worry about what we say and expressing ourselves. Make sure you check out the description and the comment section for important links, as well as information in video form that shows you what benefits you get when you support the site and join my Patreon. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe and be notified every time I upload a video. For exclusive content and perks, check out my Patreon. This is where we have private live streams, group chats, live Q&As, live phone calls, and open topics. This is a safe space where you can interact with other like-minded people, make friends, send each other direct private messages, and so much more without any trolls. And yes, you get to use GIFs and images in the live chats. So what are you waiting for? This is a completely independent website, free from censorship. If you'd like to make a donation towards the site so we can continue to put out the truth without fear of being silenced, then please hit that donation button. It's greatly appreciated. Check out the rest of the site for videos, private and public live streams, find out all the tea, and make sure to utilize the Black Money section of the website. Advertise your business absolutely free to people that look like you, free forever. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at angel_IKYG.
Didn't the Greeks learn from the Egyptians as well?
Not only did they learn, but they said they learned.
Yeah, so
the Greeks were very honest about it.
Yeah.
They sat at the feet of the ancient Egyptians. They said they learned everything they knew from the ancient Egyptians. But somehow archaeology has rewritten the narrative and gives far too much to the Greeks.